Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. We first met 11 years ago at a running club. At the time, she was harboring feelings for me while my attention was elsewhere, focused on a mutual friend. Her affection caught me off guard, but one evening, something shifted between us, and from that night on, we became inseparable. The early years were a whirlwind of adventure and shared joy. We traveled, pursued our love for sports, and simply enjoyed life together. She particularly cherished the way I took the lead in planning trips and surprises, which made her feel cherished and highlighted my natural sense of leadership. About 7 years ago, our world changed with the arrival of our first child, and 3 years later, we welcomed our second. With parenthood came a shift in our dynamic, settling us into a routine that, while comfortable, didn't nourish our relationship in the same way. During those early years of fatherhood, I often traveled for work, and when I was home, I focused only on doing the bare minimum to keep her content. I have a tendency to procrastinate and value comfort above all else, while she finds peace only in orderliness. Her need for tidiness clashed with my more relaxed approach, creating a tension that we eventually managed to settle into an uneasy rhythm. But while we found a way to manage the household, we unknowingly let our deeper connection slip away. We became more like roommates, living side by side but no longer truly seeing each other. Her fear of commitment and my fear of abandonment created a peculiar balance, neither of us willing to disrupt the fragile harmony by confronting the growing distance between us. She, being conflict-averse, avoided arguments, which only prolonged the inevitable. Our sexual relationship also suffered. The fiery passion of our early days cooled over time, especially on her side. Though we continued to have sex, it became more of a routine than a true expression of intimacy. For nearly 7 years, her affection seemed to shift toward our children, particularly through breastfeeding, which left me feeling increasingly starved for the physical closeness that is my primary love language. In an effort to rekindle our intimacy, we sought the help of a sexologist. She stopped breastfeeding and resumed her passion for sports, which brought a temporary boost to her sexual drive. Yet without the emotional bond we once shared, the improvement was short-lived. We even ventured into the world of swinging, a suggestion she made, as she had explored it in past relationships. While the experience was exciting and new, it felt more like an attempt on her part to give me what I'd been missing, rather than a mutual journey back to each other. At one point, we discussed opening our relationship. She mentioned she wouldn't mind if I kissed another woman on a business trip, and eventually, the idea extended to allowing each other the freedom to have sex with others, as long as certain boundaries were respected. Yet for me, this freedom was hollow. I work from home, our lives revolve around family, and the opportunity for such encounters never arose. I went along with it, but it only deepened my frustration, as the promise of something I couldn't attain left me feeling more isolated. Around this time, she switched jobs, moving from a prestigious publishing house to a smaller consultancy. In this new environment, she received attention she hadn't experienced in a long time, particularly from her male colleagues, whose compliments and flirtations reignited a spark in her. She began to feel desired again. I soon noticed her growing closeness to a coworker. Unlike past crushes, which she kept to herself, this one seemed mutual. He, trapped in a difficult marriage, seemed emotionally available, though my wife assured me he wouldn't cross certain boundaries. It was around this time that she subtly revisited our earlier conversation about the rules of our open relationship. In hindsight, I realized she was seeking permission to explore her feelings for this coworker. Her subtle glances, the easy closeness between them, it all became undeniable when I confronted her. After some pushing, she admitted they'd been flirting for a while, though she insisted it was harmless. I wasn't angry about the flirting itself, but the fact that she had hidden it from me stung deeply. We had a fight, one of the few serious ones we've had, and in the aftermath, she acknowledged that our relationship needed work. From that moment on, we set a plan in motion. I knew I wasn't the perfect husband, and I realized it was time to focus on what truly mattered to her. Our plan, which still stands today, was built around a few key changes. I would organize trips for us, like in the early years, escaping from the kids for more than just a single night. The first time we do that in 8 years. Over those years, we'd only managed about 3 nights away, and it was time to change that. I also took on more responsibility around the house, making sure I led and took ownership, so she wouldn't constantly feel the need to be in control. Part of this plan was for me to open up emotionally, something I've always struggled with. I'd grown used to locking my feelings away, shutting her out. I also committed to changing my routine, going to bed early and waking up early to care for the kids. Up to now, I've stuck to these promises, following through on the plan. I wanted to reignite the passion between us, but she confessed that she never truly felt passionate in our relationship, not the way she had when she was involved with a more thrilling, albeit less stable, partner in her past. Stability wasn't the problem, she said, but rather the lack of excitement. That led to a strange suggestion. I would sign up for dating apps, hoping that maybe a little jealousy would spark something in her. I went on a few dates and even slept with 2 women, but instead of jealousy, it only provoked disgust. Needless to say, that experiment failed. For her part, all she had to do was remain open, honest, and transparent. She claimed that her flirtation with her coworker was nothing serious, just harmless banter. Yet oddly, she insisted that I didn't need to go to bed with her at the same time, saying the evening hours were mine to use however I pleased. It soon became clear why. One night, as I reached for her phone to use the flashlight on my way to the bathroom, I saw a notification from her coworker, a kiss emoji. When I confronted her again, she admitted they had been sexting. This had become a pattern over the months. Downplaying her connection with him, brushing it off as insignificant. Even on a recent trip, I noticed she had message expiration turned on for their conversations, another sign she was hiding something. When I pressed her, she confessed to having a crush on him, but reassured me that it was just a fleeting infatuation, nothing to worry about. Last weekend was our long-delayed wedding celebration. Although we had legally married 2 years ago, we hadn't yet thrown the party until now. I took care of everything, planning the event down to the last detail. Just a week before, we started marriage counseling, knowing that we couldn't solve our issues on our own. My wife was anxious during the session, terrified that I'd have an outburst and ruin the upcoming celebration. To complicate things further, her coworker was invited to the wedding. During the celebration, we renewed our vows, promising once again to choose each other. But afterward, she told me that the entire experience felt surreal, as though she were attending someone else's wedding. She didn't want to be the first to say her vows, dreaded the idea of an opening dance, and emotionally, she wasn't present with me throughout the event. We barely danced together, and I felt the absence of the connection I so desperately longed for. But when her coworker arrived, she lit up. She was eager to take pictures with him, and I was left with a bitter taste in my mouth. I kept my composure, though. Her greatest fear was that I'd cause a scene. Yesterday, we had another fight. Our marriage counselor suggested working with her first, to help her confront her fear of commitment and sort out the confusion in her mind. I urged her to schedule the appointment, as it seemed to be the one thing that might save us. But she kept postponing, clearly not prioritizing what was, for me, the only glimmer of hope. I told her she needed to decide to choose me or not. After much hesitation, she finally agreed to stick with the therapy and commit to us. Part of that commitment meant keeping her relationship with her coworker strictly professional and no longer confiding in him or her other colleagues about our problems. I also agreed to stop having these heavy discussions with her, as they only seemed to drag her down and make her decision more difficult. We would, in essence, return to business as usual. This morning, I checked her phone again, hoping to see signs of change. But instead, I found her sending heart kiss emojis to him, telling him how much she missed him and looked forward to hugging him again. When I called her before work, I said I believed in her, that she could keep things professional, that I had faith in her. She replied casually, saying it would be easy. No big deal. So where do I go from here? I don't want to leave her, partly because of my own fear of abandonment, but also because of the children and the life we've built. It's comfortable, if nothing else. She needs time to figure out what she really wants. Maybe therapy will give her the clarity she needs. I can't ask her to change jobs. It would only make her resent me. So for now, I wait, trapped between the life we've built and the uncertainty of where we're headed.